Hello YouTube. Patch 1.14 came out for Elden Ring, and it did many things. And I'm making this the day of the patch, so there are many more things that have yet to be discovered about this patch. But one thing I noticed was that Rellana's Cameo, I said that really bizarrely, is a talisman that buffs stance-based Ashes of War. If you don't know what a stance is, it's any Ash of War where you take a posture with your weapon while holding down the L2 button, and then if you hit light or heavy attack, it will do differing attacks for that weapon. So it's kind of like a 2-for-1 special. Normally, pre-patch, Rellana's Cameo would buff stance Ashes of War by 15% if you held the stance for 1.5 seconds. Now, it arms in 1 second, and it gives it a meaty 45% bonus damage. This naturally stacks with the Shard of Alexander, which gives another 15% Ash of War damage. It's like you suddenly went from having one Shard of Alexander. Oh, cool, you have Rellana's Cameo. That's like another conditional Shard of Alexander. And then because of this buff, you get 2 more Shards of Alexander. It's like having 4 Shards of Alexander, and it's nonsense. This build that you're seeing before you is a level 80 wizard. Thanks to the Godric Great Rune, I have 45 int on this build. The weapons are plus 17 or plus 7 somber. And in my Wonders Physic, I have, of course, the pure magic damage and then the plus 10 intelligence. So you could say I have 55 intelligence, and I am doing this insane amount of damage with this ridiculous Transient Moonlight on the Moonveil. And I try out several more Ashes of War across this footage. This fellow was nice, though. I decided to be merciful, you know, try to encourage him to heal up. I wanted to use him as a training dummy to understand all that's going on. And he acquiesces, and we have a nice little fight here, and you can see the damage. He blocks this next hit, and I do 512 damage through his block. Granted, he's blocking with a Colossal Sword, but still, at level 80, I'm doing 500 damage through something's guard? That's gnarly. Moonveil still has those weird moments where you do partial damage, and I've even noticed those weird partial damage moments on the overhead stance for the Great Katana. So, I actually have an instance of that much later in the video, probably near the end. And so, across this video, I of course play with Moonveil because Transient Moonlight as a stance felt like the first thing that ought to be abused because everyone hates Moonveil. It's got range, it's got damage, it's got hit stun. Why would you not hate it? Why would you not hate going against it? And so if it's going to be absolutely buffed through the roof, I want to know how and why. And I was going to take this build to level 150, I just haven't yet. Maybe for another video. But still, I was having a grand old time with it. You may have noticed a moment earlier, I was doing the R2s. One-handed R2s with the Moonveil, and, well, that's another thing that patch 1.14 did, is many, many heavy attacks got buffed. It was like daggers, throwing knives, straight swords, great swords, colossal swords, heavy thrusting swords, curved swords, twin blades, katanas, great katanas, axes, flails, all the great spears, except Serpent Hunter, halberds, scythes, whips, hand, beast claw. All of these things got their R2 sped up a little bit, and some things are gnarly. Some things are absolutely bonkers. The one I really like is the straight sword R2. I don't know how much it's faster, I just know it feels faster. It's almost like they didn't necessarily speed up the animation for these attacks, they just made it so that the delay between inputting the R2 and it decides you're not actually charging it anymore, it's like they shortened that, if that makes sense. But I could be just talking out of nothing here. I have very small amount of experience with these things, but still. Transient Moonlight hits like a truck. I shouldn't be doing this immense amount of damage. I'm sometimes hitting for 700, 800 damage with this thing. Imagine if I was a level 150 character with a fully maxed out Moonveil, 80 int, the whole shebang. How much I would chunk people for. How ridiculous that would be. And I do get around to testing out wing stance in this video, as well as square off and the overhead stance. I didn't, of course, test out the Rellana's stance for her twin blades. Twin blade seems wrong. Her light greatsword and straight sword paired weapon. Look at these. Look at this damage. I'm still in awe about how much damage it does. I'm kind of in awe on how much damage Hefty Magic Pot's doing at 55 Int with Terra Magica. That was probably a rude way to maximize damage, was to be laying down Terra Magica with these stances, but oh boy does it hit hard. But now we've transitioned to the wing stance. I'm not very good with wing stance, I'll be honest with you folks. I need more practice with it. It feels like a defensive Ash of War. Look at that. 858 damage. That might have included a little counter damage. I believe the heavy attack off of the wing stance does some piercing, even if you're elemental infusion. And that guy was in his attack, so maybe take that with a grain of salt. But still, the damage output on this thing is insane. So this guy runs away for a minute, and I'm being patient because I'm trying to find out how much damage this darn wing stance can do. And when you're playing at the level 80 bracket, I thought it'd be fun because I'm not very good with these weapons. It might be a fun way to just get in the damage, feel for how it works out. Sometimes, or oftentimes, where straight sword gets outclassed at meta levels, so lower levels felt like a time to experiment a little more, and it just melts that guy. I'm not very good at landing it, but when it does land, it hits hard. Light greatsword doesn't have hyper armor with wing stance, so it's hard to get that. The wing stance R2 is supposed to have a little bit of a jump. I think it can dodge some stuff. I haven't got it consistently work, but look, just melts that guy. Oh my goodness. I like to use either Spinning Slash or Sword Dance on my Milady because I like having a little bit of hyper armor. So despite the wing stance being the designated light greatsword Ash of War, I have not toyed with it all that much. But good thing to note, if you aren't aware, wing stance lets you, you can hold stance and you can do light attack into light attack into light attack, and as soon as you crescendo with a heavy, then you have to reset it. However, if you want Rellana's Cameo to take effect, you have to hold each wing stance in between attacks for at least a second. Which 1 second, it doesn't feel like a lot until you need damage now, immedately. And so there's times where you want to just pop it early, and honestly, if you hit your opponent because you're outspacing them or hitting them before their attack comes out because you just see it coming, it's probably worth getting the damage, and if you happen to hold the stance long enough for the damage bonus, just take it that way. Probably shouldn't be like me and waiting around in stance and hoping for some sort of stupid opening. It's not the smart way to use it. And I want you to be far, far smarter than I am. These two were AFK. Normally I would have left these people alone, but because I'm testing for damage, let's take a look here. We get a wing stance off. Ooh, 911 damage. Ooh, 803 damage to the guy in the back once all three hits collide with him. Ooh, that can dish out some damage really quickly. Oh, I feel like if somebody's rolling around you, maybe wing stance could be okay as a roll catch. The light attack version. I'm not sure when I ought to be using the heavy yet. The use case has not become readily apparent. Especially when you have to charge it up. But look at that damage. That was 900 something damage. Went by in a flash. It's already over. That was my training dummy for earlier at the end of my little Moonveil arc. I reinvaded these people. That last wing stance felt a little dirty. Poor wizard was fat rolling despite wearing a cloth shirt. I guess his pants were just far too heavy for him. My goodness. But there were several other changes in the patch that I'd like to mention, even just in passing. Backhand blades do less damage. That's great news. That's they're probably still incredible. I don't know how much less damage they're doing. I've heard some people in the ballpark saying it does about at meta levels with optimized builds. It's doing about 150 less damage, maybe 200 less damage, unlike the running R2 or something like that. Don't quote me on that, but it's like you're losing a good chunk of damage, but it's still so fast and has so much forward momentum. I'm sure it's still going to be a top contender as far as the game's ecosystem is concerned. dual-wielded spears was nerfed. They do less damage now to other players. The Pata does less damage against other players. That's nice too. The spread crossbow no longer can get headshot stumbles. Wonderful. Did you like that last little invasion? I need to use the glint blade a little more. It's really nice to set that up and to go in and attack somebody. It feels like a match made in heaven for the light greatsword. Set up a glint blade, run in, harass the person while they know a projectile's coming their way. Before I mention more of the patch notes, I want to mention that, well, as a part of the patch notes, the R2s were buffed for a lot of weapons. I mentioned that already, but look at these R2s. Oh, they're tasty. They're quick. They're scaring this poor fella. And we've moved on from wing stance to square off, and I didn't get to play with square off as much as I would have liked. I had limited time, needed to get to bed. I work tomorrow, but I wanted to put out a video oh so badly. And so I make a dumb decision during this invasion, but then I clean it up by the end, and maybe it's just because the setup is so strong. But I eventually get a square off on this guy, and blam, 910. Whew, remember, 910 would be pretty good if this was meta level. I'm level 80. 55 intelligence with my physic flask. 40 base. You know, it's nonsense. It's hard to hit square off, right? I'm not saying it's overpowered. I'm just saying the amount of damage you get out of these things is insane. What was FromSoft thinking? What was going through their head? Parry. Nice. Makes me feel cool in the moment. It's almost like they were thinking at FromSoft, nobody's using square off, overhead stance, wing stance. What do we do? Well, let's make Rellana's cameo even better. And they forgot that would apply to Moonlight Greatsword, or sorry, not Moonlight Greatsword, that it would apply to Moonveil. But of course, the damage does apply to Moonveil. They didn't completely forget it. They just were fine with giving it a huge damage buff. And look, that was Taylor Swift, my co-invader. I ran away from them at first because I thought they were a third player for the host team. But no, turns out I got a co-invader. Which, that's another thing. I'm playing Seamless Co-op, you may have noticed. Seamless Co-op patched same day as this patch. And what did they add? Dried Finger. Yeah, the item that lets you invite in invaders from Dark Souls 1 and 3, probably 2 as well. I don't remember if it's in that game, but it probably is. And so now you can have your own Taunter's Tongue that works for Seamless Co-op. It's crazy. Good update. There's so much going on, so many things I want to play with. I want to play with more Sword and Board, so I'm tempted to linger more at the level 80 bracket. And if I get a square off, great, or maybe I'll just have square off be supercharged for breaking shields. That's another thing that happened in the patch that I completely forgot about. Look at this square off first. Pop, 710 damage. Oh my goodness, hit him so hard. Oh, I don't know if part of that was lava, but still, it finished him off. It did what needed to be done. But, as I was saying, medium shields and small shields. They got a guard boost buff, at least. I don't know how much it was exactly, but for the Banished Knight shield and the 2 new Crest shields that came with the DLC, specifically the Serpent Crest shield, I should be specific, they had 68 guard boost at maximum upgrade level. Now they have 74. And it feels like everything was buffed a little bit. It's almost like they wanted unupgraded shields to be a little better, and they tightened the divide between medium shields and great shields, which I'm fine with. It just means that, my goodness, some of those bigger medium shields are just gonna be the better choice compared to great shields in a lot of ways. And so now I am here trying to play with overhead stance, getting the runaround. Since it's Seamless Co-op, people can get on their horses and be so annoying. A fight I didn't include in this video was one where I was trying to basically duel this one guy. It wasn't really a duel, it was an invasion, but it was just a 1v1. And then his friend showed up on horseback and would not stop spamming Star Shower. The little 3-burst version of Star Shower. I forget what that one's called. And it was just, that's all he would do, Star Shower, Star Shower. Every time I get close, he'd just weave away Star Shower, just chip damage, plus mobility on horseback, and, oh, it was a pain. The footage wasn't very fun. I didn't get many stance move hits, so I didn't include it, but Horses can be a bit cancerous. They're not fun to play with in the PvP. But they're there. They're an option, so it's a part of the reality. I was just astounded by how fast Seamless Co-op was. There we go, look at that. 600 damage, pretty good. It seems that overhead stance is a little, I don't know if it's undertuned or overtuned. Its damage felt appropriate. Kind of. Doing 600, halfway to 700 damage with a single hit's probably still a little bit of overkill. There's 700 damage there. For a level 80 wizard running 55 int plus 17 weapons, it's probably a bit much. But it didn't feel as overtuned as the, well, of course, Moonveil, so take from that what you will. This video has gone by in a flash. I didn't get to talk about nearly everything I wanted to, but I hope the stances that have come to your mind have inspired you. I didn't get a chance to try out normal Unsheath. I'm sure if you were to throw normal Unsheath on a 80 dex build, lightning infusion, meta level, you just smear some people. Nobody has lightning resistance. It's got a great motion value. I'm sure you will chunk. You probably only need 1 or 2 extra light attacks to make that work phenomenally. So stances, they have a place. Lots of weapons are faster with their R2s. Apparently colossal swords, I don't know if it's all colossal weapons or if it's just colossal swords, they have a little extra speed on the normal attacks now and a little bit of forward momentum, maybe. That's crazy. Oh, I added these miscellaneous parries that the rest of the footage was lame, but I was going for a few parries, and I happened to get a few parries, so you get to see these parries, and I feel cool doing them, so you get to be subjects to that. I'm such a simple lad. It's hard to get parries. High risk, high reward, but now that shields are better than ever, these shields are at plus 17, right? And they have the same guard boost as if they were fully upgraded pre-patch, so that's neat. They can take a lot more stamina damage than they could before. Maybe they wanted Sword and Board to come back, and so they made R2s faster, and then they made shields better, and then they made stances better. Maybe somebody just loves Square Off and Sword and Board, and that was their dream, was to get that working. But this is my final little invasion here. I was surprised because there's 4 people here. I didn't realize until the very end that there was one extra surprise player who was a little bit better than the others, and who punishes my hubris plenty, because it's easy to crutch in this game on certain tools. Poor guy whiffs the backstab, and I get the counter backstab. And look, another parry. Ooh, tasty. I almost did a 360, but I bailed on it because I wasn't certain if I should do that. I've seen the cool players do 360s. I'm probably not one of them. I'm incredibly average, but thank you for joining me today. It was good to have you. I have so little time, I can't think of anything else. Look up the patch notes yourself. It seems like a healthy patch for the most part. If there is a glaring flaw, it's probably Rellana's Cameo and Moonveil. Ooh, it's scary. Moonveil was already scary. Those backline gankers are just gonna hit like a bus, and you gotta be ready for it. I usually don't get to make a video or the day of a patch and maybe be on the front lines of people's search bars. Who knows? We will see. That's not important. What's important is that you have fun and you enjoy yourself through and through. And I'll see you in the next one. I have more content planned soon, and with the patch, there's lots of new things to explore. So I'll see you then. Bye now.